going to go to Mr. Kimmel and ask you, similar to what Senator Johnson did, but give you an opportunity to maybe give us some more information. Could rapid DNA technology be employed across our entire southern and northern border? And then in conjunction with the $100 you talked about cost, do you have any idea what it would cost on an annual basis?
Senator, I don't have the annual numbers, but you could basically project what are the candidate pool in terms of the encounters, the 2 million plus folks that are being encountered along the border, and you could extrapolate based on the $100 test cost. What would it look like? We could deploy it across the entire southern border. You could do it in phases, depending on what the budget allows. You could have a mobile capability that allows you to take a group of machines or instruments to where there are high flow areas, and you can augment, you can shift, you can be very agile in your response with the rapid DNA technology. So it doesn't have to be deployed everywhere at once, but you could strategically deploy that capability at or near the border in order to get the immediate results that we need before we release these folks within 72 hours.
Thank you for that. There was a follow-up that I wanted to do with this would be for each of you three people, and I think I know the answer, but I want to hear it from you, and it's probably just a yes or no answer. Your treatment as whistleblowers, in your opinion, has Senator Mayorkas failed to comply with the whistleblower protection laws? Mr. Wynn.
Yes, Senator, I believe he has. He has either ignored the whistleblower protection laws or his staff has shielded him from any unpleasant facts about CBP's retaliation. So that suggests an unacceptable level of either malice or dysfunction.
Mr. Taylor.
Senator, I would have to agree with that. We do know that the current Inspector General for DHS has been aware of this for, we believe, at least 5 years. We've reached out no less than a half dozen no less than a half dozen times to him. And through the work of your staff, your committee, if you go and Google CBP DNA whistleblower, I believe that we own the first 4 or 5 pages of results. We're recently on the front page of Government Executive. This is not a secret, what's going on with us or what's going on at CBP.
And Mr. Jones.
In short, yes, sir. I do believe that the Secretary has not protected us and followed through on the Whistleblower Protection Act.
Have each of you continued to be retaliated on beyond what I said in my opening statement?
Senator, at approximately the end of 2018, I reached the limits of my ability to tolerate being iced, and I sought a separate position within Customs and Border Protection. So I can say that the retaliation against me has ceased. However, I am on a drastically different career path than I would have been.
Senator, since the removal of my law enforcement retirement, my firearm, my law enforcement credentials, the position description change, short of terminating me, there's no basically more reprisal that can be done. Just by the change of my status as a non-law enforcement officer employee has likely precluded me from participating in some of the committees and groups that we have because you're required to be a sworn law enforcement officer. So again, was there any retaliation as of recently? Again, the only further steps they could take with me besides sticking me in a broom closet or terminating me have already been done. Thank you.
Senator Grassley, I was demoted 3 levels. My career progression was removed. My reason for leaving the FBI was to come to Customs and Border Protection to help them build a counter weapons of mass destruction program. That vocation was clearly taken from me. As Mike stated, my firearm, my authorities, my credentials also stripped from me. It was in one act the final, I'll call it coup de grace of my position and career within CBP. looking into the future, I have no place to go. We have been with 6 years with no valid employee appraisals. We get NAs for all of our categories. So even attempting to go within government, we're being retaliated against because we can't go anywhere, because any agency will ask for your last employee appraisal as a gauge on whether you are an acceptable employee or not. So it does continue. I had someone recently say to me that they equated our existence to career terrorism, where we don't know what CBP is going to do to us next. And as Mike said, short of actual termination, we've been about as diminished as we can be and sit idle today.
Is it fair for me to assume for each of you three whistleblowers that there's never been any corrective action taken against the officials who engaged in this retaliation against you? Mr. Wynn?
Senator, that's correct. We are not aware of any such action that's been taken.
Mr. Taylor?
Senator Grassley, to the contrary, of these individuals, minus the two that have been retired, are no longer with the agency. One individual was promoted to the senior executive service. Another individual was promoted to the position of assistant commissioner. A third manager was temporarily promoted to an acting deputy executive director position. Other individuals, as Mr. Wynn had mentioned earlier, have been permitted to retire or lateral to other offices or other DHS components with no encumbrances, despite the Office of Special Counsel highlighting many of these individuals' specific acts of retaliation. They were not investigated. None of them have been investigated. When you're under investigation, you have what's called a red book, and that allegation must be either substantiated or cleared before normally, under normal circumstances, you're allowed to leave a position or go to another office. Because these people have not been investigated in any way, shape, or form, they're allowed to move about freely on their own career path or wherever they choose.
And Mr. Jones?
Yes, sir, Senator Grassley. It should not go unrecognized that from the outset, our CBP leadership has had little interest in addressing any of the malfeasance. With respect to the failures of the agency leadership, implementing the DNA Fingerprint Act law, the obstruction of the pilot, or those who have continued to actually retaliate against us. The CBP Office of Professional Responsibility was initially tasked by OSC to investigate our disclosure. At the conclusion of the OSC investigation, the special counsel stated in his letter to the President and oversight bodies on August 21st, 2019, I write this letter to inform both the President and Congressional oversight committees of this misconduct, and it is my hope that further action can be taken to bring CBP into compliance with the law. I strongly urge Congress to continue its robust oversight efforts in this area, with a particular focus on accountability for DHS and CBP officials who have known for years that this situation existed but chose not to act. I note that a number of CBP officials central to the agency's inaction were identified by the whistleblowers but never interviewed in the investigation because CBP dismissed the extent of their involvement. Yeah. The only ones so far that have been in any way punished has been us.